Hey everybody, this is Mr. Weatherly with our first distance learning lesson. It is Intro to Digital Audio Workstation, specifically Soundtrap. You can find my email address right there on your screen. You can also find my website where I'll be posting a lot of different resources. So, Lesson 1, Intro to Digital Audio Workstations and Soundtrap. So in this lesson we're going to cover what digital audio workstations are, the benefits of Soundtrap, the basic parts of a digital audio workstation, or DAW, using a personal account versus using my account, making your own account, creating a new project, your first assignment, which is composing a basic beat, how to name your projects, submitting your assignments, parts of a basic beat, my demo of your first assignment, and the summary of the first assignment where you'll see all the different things that you'll need to do for that lesson. So each one of these links is clickable. I'll be sending out this PowerPoint as a file most likely on Microsoft Teams, but it'll also be available through the website. So, what is the digital audio workstation? A digital audio workstation is a digital system designed for recording and editing digital audio. It may refer to audio hardware, audio software, or both. The most popular digital audio workstations, or DAWs, are GarageBand, which is on Mac and iOS. It's free and it's generally considered amateur, though it's very popular and very powerful. If you have a Mac or if you have an iPhone or an iPad, you have GarageBand. You just might need to download it. Then if you wanted to get a little more professional with GarageBand, you would get Logic Pro, and I believe the current version of Logic Pro is called Logic Pro X. That's also Mac only. I do not believe there is a version for iPad or iPhone. That one you do have to pay for, though it's relatively cheap compared to other professional DAWs. Then you have Soundtrap, which is what we'll be using today. Soundtrap is web-based, so you can access it from anything with an internet connection. It's totally free, and it is not quite as powerful as GarageBand, though it can do a lot of things. There's also Ableton, which is PC only. I believe it might be for Mac too, but I believe it's PC only. It is paid. It's generally thought of as professional, and lots of live musicians will use Ableton if they're using any sort of DAW in their performance. And then there's the industry standard, which is called Pro Tools. This is for PC only. No, that's not true. It's for PC and Mac. It's paid. I believe it's quite expensive. And like I said, it's the industry standard. Most studios will use Pro Tools. If they're not, they're using Logic. And if they're not using either one of those, they might be using Ableton or something else. Okay, so Soundtrap. And this is the one that we'll be using. It's free. It's web-based. I love it very much. We're getting better and better at it the more we use it. So the benefits are, like I said, it is free. There are paid versions of Soundtrap, but really all it does is include more sounds. They're not even necessarily higher quality. You can get access to, there's a bunch of classical instruments you can get access to, a lot more drums you get access to, but then there are also certain things, certain features that are locked behind a paywall, such as automation for more than one track, which is actually very useful. I'm not sure that it's worth paying for, because you can sort of get around it if you're clever about it, but there are some benefits to paying for it. If you really love Soundtrap, you can pay for it, though I would recommend looking into something like Ableton or just using GarageBand if you have a Mac or an iPhone. The other benefit, and the reason why we're really using it, is that it's web-based. So like I said earlier, you can use Soundtrap on pretty much anything that has an internet connection. I've tried it on a bunch of different things. I've tried it on Windows, on Mac, I've tried it on my Switch, I've tried it on a tablet. There's also an app for Android and iOS, if that's the way you want to do it. Though the app is a little bit limited, it really does mostly everything that you'd need it to. It's really, really easy to use for the most part. There are a few glitches in there, but that's true with any computer program. And there are lots and lots of loops that are free, and it's always growing. I believe last week and the week before they added 2 entirely new sound packs, which sound really, really great. If you want to check them out, I believe one is called Anthem, and I can't really remember what the other one's called, but I think when we log into Soundtrap in a minute, we'll see what that one's actually called. Okay, so here are the basic parts of a digital audio workstation. So over here on the left, you have your instruments. Now if you look here, we have something called old school. That's a drum kit. We have all these little buttons on here. I'll explain these later. You have a bass. You have clean, which just happens to be a voice recording that I actually deleted. There's nothing here, so you wouldn't hear anything. There's another bass, and then there's a string section, which looks like I also deleted some stuff from. So on the DAW, the basic parts of it that you really need are the add new track button, which is going to add new instruments. There is the loop library, which is the place that contains lots of different pre-made loops, which are pre-made little instrument tracks that you can add to your projects and use them for free. Even if you wanted to sell your song, you wanted to sell a beat that you made to a rapper, something like that, everything on Soundtrap is royalty free, which means that it is free to use, free to sell. You can access the loop library by clicking Browse Loops, or by clicking this purple loop library button up here. Now there's also the rhythm grid, or the patterns beat maker. That's patterns beat maker. This is what we're going to be using on lesson 2, on assignment 2. This is how you can create really, really cool beats. You can make them really basic and make them really complicated. All depends on what you're trying to go for. Now if you wanted to add something like a piano or a guitar, you could input those parts by clicking this button called Play the Synth. And that part you would hit this record button, a keyboard would pop up, and you would hit all these different keys, and you could input whatever you wanted. Now right here you have loops. So these are called loops because they repeat over and over and over. As you can see, these little notches here. This is a loop that has been looped 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now when you put a loop into an instrument, that instrument is going to play this music. So if you see all these dots and dashes and all that stuff, this happens to be a drum kit. So you can't tell from here, but it looks like this is probably, this little dash here on this line is a kick drum. This looks like it's most likely a snare drum, and this looks like a hi-hat up here. So you would use this sounding instrument right here to play this music. If I were to drag this to another instrument, maybe string section of this bass TikTok squad, it would play the same rhythm, though it would sound completely different because now it's on a bass instead of a drum kit. This one right here, this is an audio loop. And this you cannot drag to other instruments because it's actually pre-recorded audio. This uses something called MIDI, which we're going to get into, I believe, in assignment 3, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but this can be transferred to other instruments. Same thing with this. This is also MIDI. This one, this audio recording with these sound waves, cannot. Now you also have this little section up here. This is where you can change the name of your track. When you hover over it, this is just a picture, so it doesn't work, but when you hover over it, you'll see a little pencil. You click it, and it'll give you a chance to change the name of your track, and then right here you have the save button. Okay, so on each instrument track you have several different buttons that are really, really important and do a lot of things. So right here you have your record button. Now you'll also see a red record button sort of at the bottom of your screen sometimes. If you were to hit that record button, it would record your voice, or if you somehow had a guitar attached to Soundtrap, you would record that, some real life instrument. Now, in order to record on this track, this old school track, this would need to be clicked and it would turn red. Here you have your individual instrument volume right here, your volume knob. What happens is you would click this, you drag it up or down, not spin it, you don't spin it. Click it up to make it louder, click it and drag it down to make it quieter. Whoops. Here you have your solo button, and what that does is it makes this track audible and mutes every other track. So you click it, it turns purple, you would only hear old school. Bass Retro Funk 1 would be muted, and then if you wanted to take that off, you could click it again and everything else would be audible again. Here's the opposite thing, here's the mute button. You click that, it mutes old school and everything else is still audible. Click it to unmute. And this is your automation button. This lets you do things like make a track get louder as time goes on, or softer, or certain other changes. We're not going to use that much, or at least I'm not going to make you do that at any point, especially because on Soundtrap Free you only have one track to do that with. And here are other options like transposition or some sort of other transformation to your sounds. Okay, so the most important button in Soundtrap is the save button. Soundtrap does not autosave. you have to save your project every time you do something important. If you were to forget to save and then exit Soundtrap, it might recover what you did, sort of like a Word file. It might actually remember what you did, but it might not. Or it might remember certain parts of what you did and then forget the rest of it. You need to save all the time, all the time, all the time. Also, in order to download your project, you need to have this saved. So if you see that it's purple, it means you're able to save it. If this is gray, it means that you've already saved it and you don't need to save it again. We'll go over this later, but sometimes this download button will turn into a mixing button. When it does that, it means that it's getting your track ready to be downloaded. Okay, so with all our projects and with Soundtrap in general, you can use my account or you can make your own account. I highly suggest you make your own account. That way you'll have complete access to all the things you've made. Nobody else will have access to it unless you give them your account information. If I happen to give you a group project, which assignments 1 through 3 are solo assignments, if you happen to have a group project, you'll probably want to share your account information or just collaborate on a track with the other people in your group. But the thing with Soundtrap is you need to be 18 to use it, so there may be some things you need to do with your birth year if you want to make your own account. Now, if you wanted to use my account because you're not comfortable making your own or you can't figure it out, that's totally fine. All you've got to do is email me at this email down at the little orange box. That is christopher.weatherly@k12.dc.gov. If you use my account, you'll have access to everything Soundtrap has to offer. The only issue is your projects won't be secure. I've probably given out my account information to about 150, maybe more students at this point, so there's not that much messing around with other people's projects, though it has been known to happen from time to time. So I highly suggest making your own account. If you are not comfortable doing that, maybe ask your parents, they'll make you one, or you can just use my account. Just remember to email me to get my information if you want to do that. Okay, so this will do a little live demo on, but you're going to make your own account if that's what you choose to do. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to soundtrap.com, soundtrap.com. Now, when you do that, you may be pulled up to the education tab over here. You don't want to be over here. It's going to do some weird stuff. You don't want to be a teacher over here. You don't want to be a student here. These are really limited accounts. So what you're going to do is you're going to click Music Makers over here. It'll reload the page and it should just say Join Now. That's all it should do, nothing else. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click Join Now. And now down here, it's going to ask you if you want to use for personal use or education. Do not click Education, absolutely not. That's going to limit your account. It's the same thing as before. You're going to click Personal Use. Okay. Now in this section, this is a little of a confusing section because if you're accessing Soundtrap when we get back to school, if you do sign up with Google, it's going to, it may be blocked. Same thing with Facebook. If you're accessing these from our school laptops or the school iMacs, it may be blocked. So what I would suggest is clicking sign up with email instead. That way you don't have to access Google, you don't have to access Facebook. It is just all through Soundtrap. So that's what I'll do. So there we go. That's my other account. So what you're going to do is you're going to put in your email. Here's my super real email address at gmail.com. Then you're going to make up a new password. I would suggest not making it the same as your email, but maybe writing it down so you don't forget it. That's my super real password. It's very long, very secure. Now, for the country, you may be tempted to pick a country that sounds interesting. You might want to pick Cyprus or the Czech Republic or Djibouti or something like that. I would not do that. I know some countries are limited in what they can do on Soundtrap. I would always pick US, and it's not United States on this, it's just US. Now, in order to be in order to use Soundtrap, you need to be 18 years old. So some of you are not 18 years old. 18-year-olds are born, I believe the current 18-year-olds would have to be born in, I guess 2002, maybe some would need to be born in 2001 or earlier. I'm going to pick 2000 because I know that 2000 was 20 years ago. Then I'm going to put my birthday Here you go. And then I'm going to hit sign up. It may actually make an account with this nonsense information. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, I made this up, so it's nothing. But so go through that. If you have trouble, email me or chat with me on Microsoft Teams. I'm going to go log into my account that I've already made. Okay. And this is a little good tutorial. If you've already made an account, you go to login. Oh, bye. No, don't do that. Okay, so that's the account I'm going to use. That's different than my teacher account. Here we go. I'm going to log in. Alright, and once you make an account, it's going to bring you to a screen that looks like this. This is your homepage for Soundtrap once you've logged in. So you'll see a bunch of different things here. You'll see over here, I have a picture up here. You probably won't if it's a new account. Over here, this is how you're going to log out eventually. If you're on your personal computer or your phone, you might not really need to log out. Ooh, I have 2 followers. Over here, I put a little sample of my work. You can over that to hear it. I'm not going to do that. Now, you have a bunch of different information on here. Oh, here's that sound pack I was talking about before. It's called Brampton, probably named after Brockhampton, which is a hip-hop group. Now, you'll see a bunch of different things. If you've already made an account and already made projects, you'll see all your projects down here. This is some of my stuff. Here's something by Rory, Ethan, and Cyrus. Here's a remix of work that I did. Here's some practice I was doing with rock stuff, and here's something by John. So here's a bunch of different things. What you're going to do if you've never opened up Soundtrack before is you're going to look for the Enter Studio button. This purple button enters the studio. It starts a new project. If you're opening up an old project, you would find the project, let's say Mrs. Weatherly's first song, or the one and only, or this demo right here, and you'd hit Studio. I'm going to start a new project because that's what we're doing. Takes a second to load. Okay, now when you're at this page, it's going to give you the option to choose music or podcast. I would pick music. It just changes a few presets, like it'll turn off this thing, which you probably want, and all this. There's also some demos here if you want. It'll tell you how to do some cool stuff like dubstep, which it looks like there's a beat drop right here, some choir thing, whatever this podcast thing is, all that stuff. But anyway, choose music. Okay, now you're ready to start making stuff. Here's all those parts I was talking about before. Add new track, the loop library, the patterns beat maker, the synth thing. This is the pencil I was talking about when I was telling you how to rename your projects. And then the save button is here. Notice that it is gray. I can't click it because there's nothing to save. I can't even download anything because there's nothing to actually download. There's no music here, none at all. Okay, so assignment 1, making a basic beat. So your goal is to compose a basic beat comprised of a melodic beat. I'm gonna start over. So assignment 1, your goal is to compose a basic beat comprised of a melodic loop, a harmonic loop, a bass loop, and a percussion loop. I'll go over what all that means in a second. Down there are instructions on how to title your assignment and how to submit your assignment. I'll also go over that in detail later. So, how to name your project. So this might be a good idea to do right away. You're going to name your projects in a really specific way because I'm going to be getting about 100 projects every time you all need to submit a project. So if you name it this way, I should be able to find it really, really easily. So you're going to call it assignment number, whatever the assignment is, dash, the title of your song, and you're going to make that up. Does not matter what you actually name it. And then you're going to say by your first and your last name. For example, assignment 1 dash Sassy Flute Goes To by Christopher Weatherly. That would be an example of a song title that would work out an assignment title. So like I said, you can title it whatever you want. Just make sure the actual project that you send me is formatted like this so I can find it. So let me do that on this project I've done over here. So I'm going to click this pencil. It's going to have untitled song highlighted. Hit backspace. I'm going to call it assignment assignment 1 dash live demo. That'll be my title by Mr. Weatherly. So that would be a good way to title your project so that I can find it really easily. I'll hit enter and it's there. Now, submitting your assignment. What you're gonna do is you're gonna go over to this blue button here. This is your collaborate button. If you were making a project with another student, you would also do this. But if you're just working by yourself, you're gonna do this just to submit your assignments, and you can do this at any point. If you submit an assignment to me and it's not done, that's fine. I'll just check it when it's due, and then hopefully it's done by then. But this is how you do it. You click the collaboration button, you go to invite, and then you start typing my name, Christopher Weatherly. Now, this dude is not me. I don't know who he is. I wish we had the different names, but we don't. Christopher Weatherly 80 is not me. I am this. If you see this picture over here with me and my little dog, that's very, very small, that's me. I'm not popping up as I type right now because I'm on that account. But when you type my name in there, I'll pop up, and then you would hit invite, and everything would be good. Didn't work because I didn't select him. I don't know who that is. So if you've done that, you'd be all set. So if you look at my screen now, you'll see this picture of me down here. When you type Christopher Weatherly, I'll pop up like that. This is my account name, my username, Chris Weatherly 1. And then there's my name with capitals. This guy didn't do capitals. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's an imposter. Don't share with him. So you'll see me, very small, and you'll see my dog, even smaller. After that, you click invite, and you've done it. Now, the parts of a basic beat. You need to have at least 4 parts in your project. None of them need to be an original, though they can be if you know how to do that. You need to have melody, harmony, bass, and percussion. So melody is the catchy, memorable part of a song. It's, if I asked you to sing a song, you would probably sing the melody. If it's got words, it's probably a melody. There may also be words in a harmony if it's sung by a choir or something, but if it's the catchy part, it's the melody. Now a harmony is a combination of notes to form chords. Chords are just more than 2 notes playing at the same time, usually by the same instrument, though not always true. You would hear this with a guitar playing, rhythm guitar sort of thing, piano playing a bunch of chords. An orchestra plays harmony if you have violins, viola, cello, everything like that. Those are playing chords most of the time. Now those 3 instruments, guitar, piano, and orchestra, can also play melodies, but the harmony is usually not as catchy. You'll be able to hear the difference when I show you my project. You'll need a bass loop, which is the lowest sounding instrument. It can usually either be part of the harmony where it'll have one really important note that the chord builds off of, and or it can be rhythmic. So if it's this really sort of bouncy bass line, it's probably serving the rhythm a little more than the harmony. And then you'll also need a percussion loop. Percussion instrument being anything that hits something else to strike, or strikes something else to make sound. So a drum kit, a drum machine, congas, bongos, a triangle, crash cymbals, gong, all these things are percussion instruments. So for your project, you'll need melody, harmony, bass, and percussion. Okay, so assignment 1. Here is a demo project that I've already made. This is in the PowerPoint. I'm going to make one live too, but this is one that I've pre-made. So like I said, you need 4 basic parts to add to your project. You need the melody, the harmony, the bass, and percussion. So here is my final project, my final demo. So here are a bunch of different things in there. I've got my melody, I've got my harmony, my bass, my percussion. Now my melody part is this flute part. It moves around, it's pretty catchy. I don't believe I wrote this myself. I think I just got this from the loop library. I don't remember its original name, but this is what it sounds like by itself. So it's repetitive, it's a loop. Then I've got my harmony, and you'll hear this one. It's a little easier to understand harmony when you hear it, but it's more than one note happening at the same time. It's not there to catch your ear, it's just there to support the melody. So it's this reversed piano. Okay, now I have my bass part, and the bass part that I've chosen from the loop library is this bass guitar part. So bass guitar is just like a regular guitar, but it plays really low, and so I wanted something a little funkier rather than something just harmonic, so I chose this bass guitar part. Here's what it sounds like. And then my last part that I needed for the project was a percussion part. Now this was a pre-made drum part found in the loop library. It's called Beanie Beat or something like that. Yeah, so it's got just a bunch of different percussion instruments, drum kit, hi-hat, clapping, that sort of thing. And what it does is it accentuates the melody, meaning the melody sounds a little more interesting now because I've got a percussion part that fits with it pretty well. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, so here's the assignment of... Okay, here is the summary of your first assignment. You will compose a basic beat with the following parts: a melodic loop, a harmonic loop, a bass loop, and a percussion loop. You need to title a beat like this when you assign it. Assignment number. Here's the summary of your first assignment. You will compose a basic beat with the following parts: a melodic loop, a harmonic loop, a bass loop, and a percussion loop. When you submit your assignment, you need to name it like this: assignment number dash the title that you've given it by your first and your last name. For example, if I were to do this project, I would go assignment 1 dash Sassy Flute Goes Toot by Christopher Weatherly. Then you'll submit your assignment by adding me as a collaborator. So when you actually have this PowerPoint, if you click any of these three things right here, it will bring up the slide that tells you how to do that sort of thing. And I'm going to try to do that for all parts of every slideshow that I give you. And then if you have any problems, any questions, any comments, or concerns, email me at christopher.weatherly@k12.dc.gov. Should be pretty easy. Some of you have done this already, so I think you'll be okay. So let's go through and do a demo project. If you've already got all that and you want to skip this part of the video, that's fine. Though if you watch me do it live, it might be a little easier. So let me bring this up to 100. There we go. So let's do a live demo of this project. If you feel like you're ready to go already, you can definitely skip this part of the tutorial. That's totally fine. Though watching it live might be helpful. You might learn a few things that I didn't say in the PowerPoint. So let's go for it. So I've already named my project. I will do it again just to show you. Whoa. Here we go. We're going to call it assignment 1. What should I call it? I'll just call it live demo again. Live demo by Christopher Weatherly. That's me. Maybe I'll change it to Mr. I'm going to change it to Mr. Mr. Weatherly. Good. All right. Hit enter and it's there. Notice that it said mixing. No, it's not actually doing anything. So we need 4 parts for this project. We need a melodic loop, a harmonic loop, a percussion loop, and a bass loop. I'm going to start with melodic loop, something really, really catchy. So I'll open up the loop library over here. So I've got a bunch of different things. As I look through the loop library, there you'll see things like beat number 3, piano chords. There's that word chords. That'll probably be a harmony part. Sun pluck, who knows what that is. You can't really tell what some things are. So if you're looking for something harmonic, or I'm sorry, melodic, you might want to type in some instrument that you think might be good for playing melodies. Hello? 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 Okay, so let's do a live demo of assignment 1. If you feel like you already know what you're doing or you've already basically done all this stuff before, you can definitely skip this part of the video. But if you're new to Soundtrap or you want a refresher or you want to pick up on a couple tricks that I didn't actually cover in the PowerPoint, then this part of the video is for you. So the first thing I want to do is I want to name my project in the way that I'm supposed to when I submit the assignment. So I'm going to title it Assignment 1 dash live demo, my really creative title, by Mr. Weatherly. So I need assignment 1 dash the title that I've given it, which is up to you, and then by your first and your last name. So I need a melodic loop, a harmonic loop, a bass loop, and a percussion loop. I'm going to start with the melodic loop just because it's high and that's what I'm thinking about right now. So what I'm going to do is I can either go to Browse Loops or I can click the purple Loop Library button to pull up all my loops. Now, as you scroll through this, you'll see lots of different things like beat 2, hi-hat, kick, snare, stuff like that. Those will be percussion parts. Those are really obvious. There's this thing called Beanie Fogpan Loop number 1. Who knows what that could be? Some of these things you kind of just got to click to see what they actually do. So let's see what Fogpan Loop 1 is. Okay, so this is some sort of, I don't know, spacey sounding synthesizer or something like that. I need something melodic, which is kind of hard to find just by looking at every single loop they have. Brampton, vinyl piano. I can sing that. That's pretty catchy. That sounds like a melody to me. Let's add that. So to add it, I'm gonna click it. I'm gonna drag it over to the actual studio part. I like it. Okay, so I've got my melody. I'm even gonna rename it by double clicking on its name. Melody, and what was it called? Vinyl Piano 1R. Just so I know that's my melody, and if I needed to find it again, I could. Alright, so let's get a harmony in there. I've got a piano in there. I could get another piano part, maybe that plays chords. Let's see. Got that? Let's see. Now, you'll notice that some of these say music makers on them. These tracks you can only use if you pay for Soundtrap. Like I said, don't do it. You don't need to. But if you really love Soundtrap, you might want to do it. Here's what it sounds like. It's pretty thoroughly 70s, 80s rock. So I'm not going to use it. Not that I could anyway. So let's see, electric pick, that'll probably be something melodic. Yep, that's melodic. Let's see, guitar dizzy. Yeah. That would work for a harmony. The harmonic part. So let me add that in there. I just click it and drag it over, put it underneath there, and it should play both at the same time now. Normally you want the melody to be the most audible thing. So what I'll do, I don't know if I want to turn, I'll turn this up a little bit. So I'm going to click the volume knob, turn that up, listen to it. Works. I'm getting this sort of haunted house sort of vibe. So now I need something bass. I'm going to click the bass button because that's going to give me lots of stuff. Let's hear some bass parts. That works. Low. It's very rhythmic. I don't think it's what I want from mine. There's another bass part. That might actually work. Scary sounding. The piece so far is pretty scary. Synth bass. No synth bass. Like that. It's not gonna work, but I like it. So I'll click that and drag it over. See Not a fan of that. Not a fan of that at all. So I'm gonna delete that. I can do that in two ways. I can click the actual music. See how it turned darker? When I clicked it and hit delete, it'll be gone. Or I can go to this if I want to just get rid of the whole instrument. Click the three dots and hit delete track. Didn't like that part at all. So maybe distorted bass. Nope, definitely not. Yes, I like that. Let's bring that in here. That a lot. So let's get our percussion thing in here. Oops. Here we go. Let's click out of here. Let's click drums. So, get a lot of different drums in Soundtrap. They focus a lot on drums. So here, you'll notice that some things are called like fill or full or hi-hat, something like that. These are usually just tiny little instruments that they add. So here's just a kick drum. You might want to add that. If you wanted a full beat, here's a full beat. If you wanted just a hi-hat, notice how these hi-hats are the same. That's because this one's just a part of that one. Not a big fan of that. Let's see. Beanie Beat. That is way too disco-y for me. Ooh, if I want to make a trap, I could do that sort of thing. Let's see this Brampton beat. These are new. Here we go. Here's the full one. Yep. I like that. Alright, I'm going to click that and drag it in there. Let's hear what my full thing would sound like. Sorry, that's because I have cycle turned on. So you can turn it off or on by clicking this button. Notice how it turns gray or purple, or just clicking that bar right there, double clicking. Oh, no, single clicking. If it's gray, it'll just go past it. And then if it's purple, it'll repeat. All right, so right here, I have a finished project. It took me way too long, but that's because I'm explaining myself. If you're doing it by yourself, it could take 5 seconds. There are no requirements other than having a melody, a harmony, a bass part, and a percussion part. If you wanted to get fancy, you absolutely can. Just make sure that these 4 things are still here. I'm going to go over how to do a few fancy things right now. If you do not care about that, you can definitely stop watching the video, or you can keep watching. So I'm going to get out of this loop library right here because I don't want to be fancy anymore. I'm going to go a little longer with this. So I'm going to turn the cycle off. Now, if I want let's say I wanted my song to just be a little longer. I want all these things to play a little longer. Or you know what? Let's start with piano. I want piano to be a little longer. I want it to go all the way to measure 17. All I have to do that is hover over the top right corner of any loop. Your mouse will turn into a little curvy arrow. You click it and you drag it. Now it's looping your music. Now let's say I actually wanted all of this stuff to last a little longer. What I would do is I would click and drag to make this box and then highlight all of these parts. Notice how they all turn darker. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to highlight all these. Now, anything I do to one of these is going to happen to all of them. So I'm going to click that, I'm going to drag it, and they all loop. Now they're twice as long. So, let's say I want my piece to start with let's say just drums. Let's go just drums, then drum and guitar, and then we'll have the melody and the bass come in. So, what I want to do is I could do a few things. I can either click and drag all this stuff over by highlighting it and then clicking just the middle of it. If I click here, it'll do stuff. If I click here, it'll just move it. Or I can actually adjust the end, which is going to do some weird stuff. I would highly suggest never really adjusting the end of any piece. If you hover down to the bottom left or right corner, it's going to adjust the end. That's going to be just do some weird stuff. Notice how all the dots and all the waves change. That's really going to mess you up. So I do not recommend that. So I want to start with just drums. So I'm going to take these 3 things. I'm going to move them over. Let's see that. Yeah, let's get just guitar here. So I need to unhighlight those, click this over, drag it here, and do this. Oh, maybe I want it to be bass actually. That guitar part is cool, so I'm gonna make the listeners wait. Let's hear that. Cool. Alright, so I've made it a little bit fancy. There's a few other things you can do, like if you hover over the top left corner, you'll see this little dot, which says adjust, oh, nope. Can I get to it? There it is, fade in. That's a fade in. You could do that on the end too. Do a fade out. You can make it super duper long if you really want to. I'm not going to do that. Now, the last thing you've got to do is got to hit save. You have to hit save all the time. After you hit save, it's going to say mixing where the download button was. If you wanted to download it, you just have to wait for this to stop saying mixing and it'll come back up. Last thing you got to do is you got to go to collab. Believe share is different. Share might be the same. It's the same icon, so it's probably the same. But anyway, you click invite, you'd search for me. I will pop up. This dude will also pop up. Like I said, don't share with him. I don't know who that is. This picture will pop up. I can't do it because it's my own account. But yeah, that's the whole project. Good luck. Email me if you have any questions. My email is everywhere throughout this video. And yeah, good luck.